Hello. This is a collaborative presentation between Disability Rights New Jersey and the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities about knowing your rights at psychiatric residential treatment facilities and residential child care facilities. I am Corey Bernstein. I am a staff attorney with Disability Rights New Jersey's institutional rights and community inclusion teams. And I'm joined by two of my colleagues for this presentation, Jill Hogel, the Director of Investigations and Monitoring with Disability Rights New Jersey, and Elena Zoniatis, the Managing Attorney of Disability Rights New Jersey's institutional rights team. So before we begin this presentation on PRTFs, I just want to give a brief roadmap of our presentation. I will begin by talking about what psychiatric residential treatment facilities, or PRTFs as they're commonly abbreviated and we'll use here, are, and their relationship with residential childcare facilities, often called RCCFs. Then Jill will go over the process for treatment planning and discharge from PRTFs and RCCFs. Eleanor will discuss the rights of residents and policies surrounding policies surrounding restraints and seclusion at PRTFs and RCCFs. I will then discuss reports of certain occurrences at PRTFs that parents and guardians of residents must receive. And Eleanor will close the presentation discussing restraint and seclusion policy and providing Disability Rights New Jersey's contact information. So, what is a PRTF? And what this is a setting other than a hospital that provides inpatient psychiatric services to people 21 years old or younger. Inpatient care means that you live at the facility and spend the entire day and overnight there. Facilities that are PRTFs must follow rules for how they treat residents and how they must provide information to residents and their parents or guardians. Eleanor will describe some of these rights and responsibilities later in the presentation. So PRTFs are a part of Medicaid. Medicaid is a government program for people of all ages who cannot afford healthcare. The Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services is in charge of Medicaid federally. But federal and state governments work together to run Medicaid. The Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, often abbreviated as CMS, works with each individual state's state Medicaid agency to provide Medicare in that state. So CMS and states run Medicaid together, and in New Jersey, this Medicaid agency is the Division of Medical Assistance and Health Services, or DMAHS. States have the freedom to do certain parts of Medicaid differently from each other. So DMAHS has some flexibility in how they apply Medicaid in New Jersey and work with CMS to do this. Some of these differences include whether the state can have PRTFs. While New Jersey chooses to have PRTFs, not all states do so. Here's a graph showing how facilities become a PRTF in the United States and New Jersey, and how these processes work together and are connected. So in New Jersey, there are specific requirements for becoming a PRTF that may be different than those to become a PRTF in a different state. In New Jersey, one of these requirements is that the facility must be licensed in New Jersey to provide inpatient care to people 21 years old or younger. Unlike PRTFs, this license comes from a New Jersey agency only. It is not attached to a nationwide agency or program. DMAHS does not give out these licenses. These licenses also do not replace the PRTF. The facility has its license and is a PRTF under Medicaid. So it's unclear all the different types of facilities that are possible for a New Jersey facility to have a license to operate to be a PRTF, but the most common license by far is a residential child care facility. This is a license issued by New Jersey's Department of Children and Families, often referred to as DCF. To be clear, RCCFs are not automatically PRTFs. If a facility that is an RCCF licensed by the New Jersey Department of Children and Families chooses to do so, it may become a PRTF and work with the Department of Children and Families and DMOS to become a PRTF. So what is an RCCF? And this is in New Jersey, a public or private establishment providing room, board, care, and treatment services for 13 or more individuals under 21 years old for 24 hours a day. RCCFs have certain responsibilities and must provide certain rights to patients that will be discussed in detail. Some of these responsibilities and rights overlap with PRTFs, but not all of them do. So it's very important to remember that a facility is not a PRTF or an RCCF. They can be both. So not all RCCFs are PRTFs. The RCCF chooses to become a PRTF. It does not become a PRTF automatically. And now I'm going to pass this along to Jill, who's going to discuss treatment planning and discharge planning at PRTF and RCCF settings.
All right, great. Thank you, Corey. I'm going to talk to you now about what you should expect from the treatment planning and discharge process in these settings that Corey discussed. Some of the details are slightly different depending on if your setting is just an RCCF or it's designated a PRTF. However, most of the overall expectations are similar. This includes who should be involved in the treatment planning, what the plan should include, and how it should be reviewed and modified or changed during your stay. I can't move my screen. Okay. So an active treatment plan is defined in the rules as a plan that's developed with the oversight of professionals and is meant to achieve the goal of eventual discharge. This means the plan should have goals and objectives that are specific to you and should address the things that you need to achieve to be discharged. Your initial plan should be developed within 14 days of your admission if your facility is designated a PRTF, or it should be developed within 30 days of your admission to an RCCF. While the RCCFs require that the plans have an initial review at 3 months and then regular review every 6 months after that, PRTF rules require that plans are reviewed every 30 days to adjust for your progress in treatment and to review your ongoing need for the PRTF's level of service. So who is your treatment team? Most importantly, you. You need to be an active participant in your treatment planning. It means that you should be a part of deciding what goals and objectives are important to you to help you return to your community. Your team should also include your parents, legal guardians, or other legal representative if necessary. The rules for PRTFs are a little more specific about the criteria for the clinical professionals who should be involved in the treatment planning. But overall, some of the professionals that you can expect that would be part of your treatment team include a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a social worker. And if you're part of the children's system of care, the children's system in New Jersey, your care management organization or CMO care manager or your child and family team should also be part of the process. Some other members of your team could include representatives from your school to help with educational goals, or medical professionals who can help with any specific health needs or medical concerns that you have. So you can expect that your plan includes goals for your discharge, as we mentioned. These could include things such as problem-solving skills or coping skills. You will likely have goals that are related to your educational needs, depending on what grade level you're at. You may also have goals and objectives that can help you achieve better functioning with any health or medical needs you have. or goals that are related to your emotional well-being and self-care. If you're 14 years or older, your plan should also include goals related to transition, such as budgeting or money management, as well as vocational and employment goals. So while the actual plan might look different depending on the setting you're in, you can expect that your plan addresses your individual needs. The goals and objectives should be clearly defined and understood by you. There should be information about the activities or the methods that the setting is going to use to help you achieve your goals. And your plan should also have information about how your progress is measured, including how you will know when you've achieved your goals. If there's ever any information in your plan that you don't understand or that isn't clear to you, make sure you let your team know. The purpose of the plan is so that you know what you need to do to achieve your goals and how you will know when they're achieved. It has to be understandable to you. If you don't understand the content of your plan, your team can revise the plan or take steps to make sure that you help you understand what's in it. So talking about discharge planning, both the PRTF rules and the RCCF rules have specific requirements about discharge plans, although the difference is really in the timelines for when they're to be completed. In PRTFs, your discharge plan is started right from the time of your admission, but in RCCFs, they may not be developed until 30 days before you're ready to be discharged. Your discharge plan should address any ongoing supports and services that you are going to need in the setting that you move to. And some examples of what you may need are ongoing medical care, school-based supports for your educational needs, or vocational employment needs if you're 14 years old or older. The goal is to provide you with a continuum of supports that span your residential, your educational, and community life after discharge. Remember that you are the driver of this plan, and the supports that are identified in your discharge plan are going to contribute to your success post-discharge. Just like with your treatment plan, if you have questions about what's in the plan, or if there's anything that you don't understand, make sure that you speak up or have someone that you trust help you understand. So the important points for you to remember are that you should be a part of your treatment planning and your discharge planning, and you should be able to understand everything that's included in those plans. The plans should be reviewed regularly and updated whenever they need to be updated. Ask questions of your treatment team. Make sure that you have a copy of your plan or that your guardians have a copy of your plan that you can look over and make sure you understand. You can also ask the setting to provide you copies of their policies about how they conduct treatment planning and discharge planning if those are not automatically given to you when you're admitted. If your questions can't be answered or you have disagreements about your plan that you can't resolve with the facility, we would encourage you to call Disability Rights New Jersey, and our contact information will be posted for you on the last slide of this presentation. Now I'm going to turn it over to Elena, who will review your overall rights as a resident of an RCCF or a PRTF. Okay.
Hello, everyone. I am Elena Zoniatis. I'm the managing attorney of the institutional rights team at Disability Rights New Jersey, and I'm going to be covering some of your rights as a resident in both residential childcare facilities and psychiatric residential treatment facilities. Residential childcare facilities, we're going to be calling RCCFs for short, and psychiatric residential treatment facilities, we will be calling PRTFs for short. Now, residents in both of these types of facilities have certain rights. And we're going to look at both kinds of facilities and the resident rights at the facilities. And this is all under the law. Remember that if you have any questions about the kind of facility you reside in or what your rights are, you can contact Disability Rights New Jersey. We will give you the information to contact us at the end of the presentation. Residents in residential childcare facilities, or RCCFs, have the right to receive prompt medical treatment, have access to appropriate education, live in a clean, safe, and healthy environment, be free of physical or sexual harassment or abuse and physical punishment. They also have the right to attend religious services of their choice, to be able to communicate with professionals from the Division of Children and Families and other agencies, be informed of any facility search and seizure policy, and participate in physical exercise and recreational activities. Additionally, residents in psychiatric residential treatment facilities have additional rights. And some of these rights have to do with restraint and seclusion. So first, we're going to define what that is. So what is seclusion? Seclusion is when a resident is separated from other residents and people in the facility. What is restraint? Restraint is when a facility uses a method to control or manage a resident's behavior. And restraints can come in a lot of different forms. They can be physical restraint, they can be medical through medication, and the outcome that they're looking to have is that the person's behavior, the resident's behavior, is somehow able to be controlled or managed. Now, all PRTFs must have a restraint and seclusion policy. In other words, it has to be written down somewhere. And because you have the right to be free of restraint or seclusion that is used as a punishment, having a policy means that what the facility is doing, how they are carrying out these kinds of activities, if and when they do, is something that we can review. An order for restraint or seclusion cannot be a standing order. So it's not like a prescription that you might get and it always exists. Rather, it has to be on a case-by-case basis if certain events occur. Now, restraint or seclusion cannot result in harm or injury to the resident. Restraint or seclusion can only be used for safety reasons during an emergency safety situation and only until the emergency safety situation has ended. And that goes back again to my first point that it cannot be a standing order. Once the emergency situation has ended, then the restraint or seclusion also must end. Now, restraint and seclusion cannot be both used at the same time. A facility can use one or the other, not both. Restraint seclusion policy notification. When a resident is admitted, the facility must give facility policy information to the resident and the resident's parents or legal guardians, which is what I was just touching on with regard to the facility has to have a policy, and you as a resident or as a family member, legal guardian, parent must be able to review that policy. The policy must be provided in a way that the resident and his or her parents or guardians can understand. So it has to be available in the language that you speak or the language that your parents or legal guardians speak. So if anyone needs a translation of the policy, it is on the facility. The facility must provide an interpreter and/or translator. Reports to parents and guardians. PRTFs must send parents or guardians of residents of certain event records involving that resident. This is a federal requirement that New Jersey puts into action. The two types of events are serious occurrences and emergency safety interventions.
All right, thank you, Elena. And in addition to making the rules for how a facility becomes a PRTF in New Jersey puts the federal requirements for how certain incidents are recorded by federal PRTF rules into action in our state. Now, there's two types of incident records that PRTFs must send to parents or guardians. These are called serious occurrences and emergency safety interventions. So first, for serious occurrences, the PRTF must send parents and guardians of residents under 18 years old reports of serious occurrences that happened to the resident. A serious occurrence is defined as the death, suicide attempt, or serious injury of a child. This could be for things like broken bones, cuts that require stitches, or large bruises. The PRTF must send the parent or guardian of the resident reports of these serious occurrences within 24 hours of when the occurrence happened. But notice that parents and guardians of residents only receive serious occurrences if the resident is 18 years old or younger. The facility must also report these serious occurrences to DMAS as the state's Medicaid agency, as well as the State Protection and Advocacy System, which is Disability Rights New Jersey. This reporting does not always occur. So it's important to contact Disability Rights New Jersey if you believe a serious occurrence has happened to you, or if you are the parent or guardian, to the resident with who you are the parent or guardian, so that we can document and assist you. Now, here's a graph detailing what serious occurrences are, what gets reported in serious occurrences when they happen, who receives a serious occurrence report, and how quickly the facility must create the report. So the second type of report is called an emergency safety intervention. An emergency safety intervention is any form of restraint and seclusion used on a resident during an emergency safety situation. An emergency safety situation occurs when a resident's behavior places other residents or staff at serious threat of violence or injury. PRTFs must also notify the parents or guardians of residents of all emergency safety interventions used on the resident. Unlike serious occurrences, the parents or guardians of all residents, including those between 18 and 21 years old, must receive reports of emergency safety interventions. Here's a graph detailing what emergency safety interventions are, what gets reported when they occur, who receives these reports, and how quickly the facility must create these reports. Here, the PRTF must include the name of the parent or guardian they notified, the date and time of the notification, and the signature of the employee of the PRTF that notified the parent or guardian of the emergency safety intervention. And here, you can see a side-by-side comparison of the charts for serious occurrences and emergency safety interventions that have been on prior slides. This allows you to see the differences between serious occurrences and emergency safety interventions in one place.
An additional note about restraint and seclusion policies. There are additional requirements for a facility regarding restraint and seclusion policies, including staff training. However, because this presentation focuses on residents' rights, we will not be discussing that here today. However, if you believe that there are staff training issues at a facility, please contact Disability Rights New Jersey, and we would be happy to discuss that with you. Now, as we spoke about earlier, Disability Rights New Jersey is the protection and advocacy organization for the state of New Jersey. The contact information for the State Protection and Advocacy Agency must be provided to residents of PRTFs and their families upon admission, and it must also be posted in a public place, and this is under the law. A few final notes. This is a complicated system that is not easy to navigate. The information we provide might not be relevant in every kind of facility. And what type of facility a resident lives in might not be immediately obvious or apparent. So we are giving you the best general information that we can. If you have concerns about your rights or what kind of facility you live in, you can give us a call. If you are experiencing some kind of problem or think you're entitled to something that you are not getting, you can give us a call. We may be able to help. And if we are not able to help, it is still important and helpful for us to know about your problems so that we can address it on a statewide level through policy and other systems-based advocacy. Again, we are Disability Rights New Jersey. We are located in Trenton, New Jersey, but we are the protection and advocacy agency for the entire state. We can be found online at disabilityrightsnj.org. That's disabilityrightsnj.org. Or you can contact us by telephone at 1-800-922-7233. That's 1-800-922-7233. And again, I want to take a moment to thank the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities for co-branding this presentation with us and providing some of the funding that went into Disability Rights New Jersey being able to create this webinar. They can be found at njcdd.org. That's njcdd.org. Or you can reach them by telephone at 1-800-792-8858. That's 1-800-792-8858. Again, thank you so much for attending our webinar. We hope that it was informative and helpful to you. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to contact us, and we hope to hear from you and be able to help in any way possible. Thank you.